Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again in this YouTube astrological segment. I'm going to be talking about transit Neptune conjunct one's natal Chiron. Now, when we're talking about transits that involve Neptune, they can involve dissipation, dissolving, idealism, inspiration, deception, and duplicity. Now, when transit Neptune conjoins one's natal Chiron, well, this may manifest in a lot of dissolving, dissipation, idealism, hope, inspiration, deception, and duplicity. It can be in physical or emotional wounds. It could be a physical wound. I mean, Neptune is connected with deception and self-deception. So at times, if you were suffering from some physical debilitation, it might maybe something's happened with the mind where it feels worse than it actually is, or you're distorting or magnifying a physical injury. It might be somewhat imaginary, at least as far as the level of pain that it actually is, or it could be simply about dissolving that a physical related issue. If there's some problem, say if you have it in Scorpio and there's some problem with the colon or the prostate or the bladder, it can be a time where you might be gradually finding ways just to get better and have it gradually go, the problem subside. But the thing about it is too, remember that Chiron is connected with emotional wounds as well. So it could be a period too where you might be, in some cases, it could be about the dissipation of these wounds. If this was in Aries, it might be through some physical confrontation, or something where it was a contentious situation with somebody. If it's in Aries in the fourth house, it might have been some domestic battles that were transpiring, and it's a time now to maybe be healing from that. Um, it could also be, and Chiron could be connected with suffering in general, so it can be a time where you might be more inspired to get yourself out of a situation where you're suffering. Remember, Neptune is connected with escapism, so it could be a time where you might be at least looking for ways to escape the suffering, and it could be through something with spirituality in some cases. Maybe you consult somebody with the metaphysical, which includes astrology. Say if this is in Taurus or the second house, it could be through some monetary situation, or maybe the values were something that were not always good, and maybe has put you in some kind of predicament at this point in time. And it might be a time too. I mean, Chiron is associated with the pain that runs deep in us. And it can be something, again, going back to the zodiac sign Aries, if this was a situation where, like, say you were at a physical confrontation and you lost a fight, it might be something that might be, something that really hits home. It could be, a situation, if it was very contentious with a family member or a friend even. It might be, and maybe it's unresolved. It could be something that could be hurting you at this point in time. And, say if it's in Capricorn as an example, in your fourth house, it might have been dealing with very cold or callous family members who are really emotionally detached, maybe, and it might be something that's really, it might be hurting you at this time, but you may be trying to find some way to escape that. Now, Chiron is the wounded healer, of course, and it can also be connected with how we help and heal others in the ways that we can, in things that we can't help ourselves, and we can maybe help others and heal their wounds. Again, going back to the zodiac sign Taurus, it could be a time where we might have idealism in terms of how we can help somebody with values or monetary matters, or matters with persistence and perseverance. Um, it can be a situation. If it's say if it's in Taurus in the 11th house as an example, it could be matters with attaining greater persistence and perseverance in matters with attaining one's goals or aspirations, or a situation with some friend. In some cases, it can be something too where it could also be, this is a Chiron could be associated with diminished self-esteem and self-worth and how we feel about ourselves. So when you have this transit, it can manifest as an opportunity to dissolve anything that might, as far as and heal perhaps something that's connected with diminished self-worth or self-esteem, how we feel about ourselves. Say if it's in Gemini, it might be something where you might not feel you've assimilated enough information over a period of time. It might be something where you might have, or you just don't feel, you feel intellectually inferior to a lot of people, or don't have enough, you're not you don't have enough variety maybe in your life, or you're not versatile enough. So, and also this is connected with Chiron is can be associated with weakness and ineptitude. Now, it might be something where, I mean, going back to Taurus, it could be, some weakness in terms of, deal as far as generating income, persistence, perseverance, and it might be a time where we might be more inspired to do something about this and have more hope and association with this. Chiron being connected with ineptitude, I mean, say if this is in the zodiac sign Cancer or the fourth house in your natal chart, it can be in terms of perhaps generating, maybe creating a family, or just your situation with your family or your home life in general. And say if this is like making an adverse aspect to your natal Uranus while this is happening, this could be something where it could be a very, or something. It could be about trying to dissolve an erratic home-related a situation where maybe you don't have much stability in your home life. So anyway, now let's say, I mean, this could also be expressed in confusion over matters that are associated with how one may be suffering or going through some adversity. If this is an Aries in the 12th house as an example, it could be perhaps there might be some confusion, ambivalence connected with the courage to confront, I mean, which is Aries energy, and the 12th house is hidden adversaries. People that might be, could be people that are pretending to be someone's friend, but they're really their enemy. They might be using them for something as an example, and it might be about how, how are you, it might be some indecision involved with, what you're going to do about that situation. Now, it could also be at times, it could be about dissolving issues that could be associated with what we lack our proficiency in, at least in our minds, and where we might feel inept. Now, let's say if this falls in Taurus in the 8th house as an example, it might have to do with some ineptitude in being unflappable and composed and calm, which is Taurus, in a crisis situation, which is the 8th house. Or say if it's in Gemini, maybe having quick responses in those in some kind of game, like or sport, which could be, for example, like badminton or ping pong, and maybe there's some inferiority you might feel. I mean, as trivial as that may sound, I think it could manifest that way if, say, for example, you had the transit in Gemini in the 5th house in the natal chart. Now, another thing too is that another way this could be expressed, it could also be where a Neptune related person might figure more prominently and play an integral role in your self-worth and self-esteem. It could be somebody with the metaphysical, which includes astrology, or somebody that's a spiritual person. It may be somebody that's like a Neptune profession, like photography or chemistry or dancing or poetry, or a person that just is very inspirational and can try to inspire you to maybe have your dreams manifest in reality. Now, another thing too, let's say if it falls in Leo in the 7th house as an example, it could manifest in that person encouraging you to be more extroverted, which is Leo, and to improve relationships, which is the 7th house. Now, another way this may manifest could also be about duplicity or gullibility that might be tied in to one's emotional suffering. Now, let's say if this falls in Scorpio in the 12th house as an example, it might be some credit card or insurance fraud. Scorpio can be connected with credit cards and insurance. And of course, the 12th house is deception. It's imprisonment. It could be well, it could be as far as somebody doing this to you, they could be in prison. But the 12th house is the house of deception, so fraud can be included in that. Hold on a moment, people. Sorry about that, I'm back. But anyway, now in some isolated cases, this might be associated with some Neptune-related physical problems or debilitations. Remember that Chiron can be connected with physical wounds and suffering. Neptune is associated with the feet, the toes. It could be problems with mucus. It could be problems with the lymphatic or immune system. And say if this falls in Gemini, maybe something with a weakened immune system might be tied in, maybe with some kind of breathing issues or something with the lungs or pneumonia. And I'm not sure if one actually 100% one can correlate with the other. You may want to confer that on the internet, but that would be an example if that would actually can transpire. Or it could simply be something with alcohol or drug related use, or it could in drugs, I mean, it could either be recreational, of course, or prescription ones, and or it could be an inadvertent chemical assimilation, as an example, like saying radon in the home, or something that might be, that could really be detrimental to you as far as health related matters, especially if this falls in the first or the sixth house in your natal chart, because the first house, of course, is associated with the physical body. Sixth house could be connected with physical health related issues, physical debilitations. And anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, people, Edwin Learnard saying, stay well.